1 year ago, footage of a man inside a coffin surrounded by friends appeared on the internet. A complicated mechanism of gears is behind the man's head. The identity of the people in the video remains a mystery. This story is inspired by the events seen in the footage. Kyle, a college student, walks his girlfriend Julie to her car. Julie offers her credit card if Kyle needs money, but he declines. A few hours later, while Kyle studies, a shadow passes across the room, startling him. He goes outside to check, and an intruder with rotten teeth and a black hoodie creeps behind him. The intruder, Jared, is there to get the money Kyle owes Marcus, his dealer. Marcus needs the money tonight, or he'll pay Julie a visit. Kyle pushes Jared, who eventually leaves. Kyle, who works for a cleaning company, drives to an old woman's house to clean the basement. He finds a wooden coffin with a small glass window under a tarp. The old woman demands he bring the coffin and the awful things her husband collected to the landfill and make sure it gets buried. Back at home, Kyle keeps the coffin in the garage and takes a picture of it, planning to sell it. He lays the coffin on the floor and takes the lid off. The coffin cushions are upholstered with leather, and the walls are intricately carved. He pulls the cushion off, revealing a centuries-old complex mechanism of gears. In another room, Sutton, Kyle's roommate, looks at a picture of Julie on his laptop. He then closes it when Kyle enters the room, wanting to show him something. Kyle pushes Sutton's wheelchair into the garage, and they inspect the coffin. They use a key with Von Tristan 1452 engraved on it to start the machine. The gears turn as a haunting melody plays like a music box inside the coffin. In the university library, Kyle meets with Platt, who tells him about Wolfgang von Tristan, born in Frankfurt in 1412. In the book Age of Darkness, von Tristan, the devil's craftsman, was a builder of torture devices fascinated with death. In his later years, he created a mechanical coffin that allowed him to safely experience the sensation of death. The Geist Machine, or Ghost Machine. An illustration of the coffin with a figure in a black cloak beside it is in the book. Platt thinks the coffin is worth thousands or millions. Kyle closes the book and takes it home. In the garage, Kyle shows Sutton the book. Von Tristan was accused of sorcery and killed. While sketches of the machine were obtained, no actual prototype was found. Kyle believes they have the prototype and tells Sutton to get his goldfish. Sutton places the fish bowl inside the coffin as Kyle twists the key. The music plays, and electricity sparks around the goldfish. A few seconds later, the goldfish floats on its side, appearing dead, but comes back to life once the music stops. Sutton tells Kyle to call Platt. Julie arrives, and she and Kyle share a bubble bath and start kissing. Sutton interrupts and informs Kyle of their gas bill. Kyle brushes him off, and Sutton defeatedly says he'll pay it just like last month. As Kyle kisses Julie goodbye, Sutton greets Julie, who reluctantly greets him back. A few hours later, Platt arrives while Kyle takes some substance inside the bathroom. After Platt inspects the coffin, Kyle gets in as Sutton records a video of the ensuing event. Sutton theorizes that 3 turns of the key should put Kyle under for a minute. Platt turns it 3 times, and electricity dances around Kyle's face. After a few seconds, Kyle opens his white eyes as a pale ghost-like entity. Kyle tries touching Sutton's head, but his arm just passes through. When the music stops, Kyle awakens, scaring Platt. Sutton asks him about the experience, and Kyle likens it to virtual reality. He also adds it's more like being invisible. Platt nervously gets in the coffin. Kyle turns the key, and Platt's ghost walks out of the house onto the railway, where a train comes toward him. He screams in fear, but he passes through, unharmed. He then wakes up screaming and calls the machine evil. He thinks the machine simulates a near-death experience. Sutton is excited, and they help him into the coffin. Kyle places a card on a table with Ghost Machine written on it for Sutton to read while under so they'll know they're not dreaming. While under, Sutton's ghost can walk. To his amazement, Julie calls for Kyle from outside and confronts him for using her credit card without her knowledge. Sutton's ghost witnesses the conversation and watches Julie kick Platt's scooter on her way to her car. Sutton's ghost gets in Julie's car and touches her face just as he wakes up. Sutton tells him he can walk while under, but he forgot to read the card, making Platt think they're just dreaming. But Sutton teases Kyle about using Julie's credit card, also telling Platt to check on his scooter. The 3 men discuss keeping the coffin a secret and not using it yet. Sutton stands up for a few seconds before falling, swearing he could feel his legs. He wants to use the coffin again, but his friends discourage it. When Platt arrives at his apartment building, a homeless man is sleeping by the door. With Platt's back turned, the homeless man becomes a floating figure in a black cloak. Platt turns and sees that the frightening figure has gears for one eye while the other is surrounded by copper wires. Scared, Platt gets inside and closes the door. Meanwhile, Kyle sees the same cloaked figure in the bathroom mirror. Afterward, in the garage, Kyle and Julie are on a video call and agree to take a 2-week break from their relationship. Kyle takes out a wooden box with his stash and smokes. He gets in the coffin and puts himself under. He goes to a convenience store and sees where the owner's money and gun are kept, memorizing the security code and lock combination. When he wakes up, he returns to the store to steal the money and gun. While Kyle is away, Sutton uses the coffin to visit Julie's apartment and kisses her. He disappears when his time is up as Julie wakes up, feeling Sutton's presence. Later, Kyle drives to Marcus' RV to pay him and buy some substance. Marcus asks why he uses that stuff as Jared gets the product, and he says it helps him study. Marcus suggests injecting instead of using a pipe to save his teeth, but Kyle reasons he's not that desperate. Then, Jared returns and gives Kyle what he needs. At home in the driveway, Kyle checks his teeth in the mirror and sees his gums are bleeding. In his room, he hides his stash in the wooden box and places it under his bed with the gun. He doesn't notice Sutton outside, lifting weights and spying. The following day in the library, Platt gets a nosebleed. He calls Kyle to say the ghost machine uses a satanic tonal interval called the Diabolus in Musica, or the diminished fifth, which is banned by the medieval church. He wants to record the coffin's music for further study. That night, Platt asks the others about nosebleeds or headaches, and they say they're fine. He asks Sutton about his legs, and Sutton says the feeling must have been a nervous reaction. Platt shares he saw the cloaked figure and likens it to the picture from the book. Kyle waves this off and doesn't tell them what he saw last night. Kyle wants to go under for the maximum duration. Platt opposes and only wants to record the music tonight. Kyle is persistent, calling the coffin his as he lies down, not telling him his plans when he goes under. Kyle appears inside Marcus' RV, where Jared and a man wait as Marcus sleeps with a guy's girlfriend in exchange for some substance. When Marcus comes out with a woman, Kyle sees Julie instead of the man's girlfriend. Marcus tells Jared to get the substance for the couple, and Kyle follows him to where the stuff is stashed and wakes up. Before Sutton's turn, the goldfish floats dead in its bowl. Despite this, Sutton still wants to go under. He appears in Julie's boxing gym, watching her take a shower. Julie takes Kyle's call to meet tomorrow at noon to talk. After the call, Julie kisses her phone and says, "I love you, Kyle." Sutton punches a locker and startles her. He looks at his hands in amazement at moving a tangible object. Sutton wakes up and lies about where he went. In his office, Platt analyzes the music, isolating part of the recording with no sound at 7 Hz. 7 to 8 Hz is the frequency of the average brain alpha wave. Sustained sound at this frequency causes disorientation, unconsciousness, and even death. He plays it on loop, and a fly dies. He deduces that it can kill an insect and a fish, but not enough for a human body. He watches a video of the ghost machine's mechanism. The next day, Kyle tells Julie he paid off her card. She asks him where he got the money, but he says it doesn't matter. They argue but are interrupted by Platt's call saying a needle could be directly transmitting ultra-low frequencies to their heads. The stimulation of the cranio-cerebral junction could restore neuromuscular activity when the brain dies, explaining Sutton's CNS reaction. Platt believes it isn't an out-of-body experience but that their brain is dead when they use the coffin. They plan to meet at Kyle's place later that night. After the call, Kyle sees the note Julie left telling him he needs help. He gets in the truck and drives to where Jared stashed the substance and steals it. Moments later, Jared and Marcus realize someone stole their product. Calderon, Marcus' supplier, is going to punish them if he finds out. In his office, Platt sees a needle in a video of the machine. Using his webcam, he finds a needle mark on the back of his head. A shadow passes behind his door, spooking him. He walks to another room and hears the sound of gears turning. The cloaked figure is standing by the wall, staring at him. He then runs back to his desk and hides. The sound draws near as he writes an email to Kyle calling the cloaked figure Death. Scared of the figure, he gets up from his desk and runs down the stairs. He slips and falls down the stairs, dying on the spot. Sutton and Kyle wait for Platt in the garage and decide to start without him. Kyle is apprehensive about going under, but Sutton still wants to, even after a nosebleed. Kyle goes under as Sutton works on something. Kyle appears inside Marcus' RV, where he and Jared mix random substances together. Jared thinks they're making something poisonous, but Marcus only cares about paying Calderon. They sell tainted product to a junkie, and Kyle tries to stop him. Kyle screams for Sutton to wake him up, but his body is unconscious while Sutton dismantles a Walkman. The man is dying, and Kyle runs to look at the RV's license plate before he wakes up. Kyle drives to the man but is too late. He uses the man's blood to write down the license plate on the floor. He returns home and flushes Marcus' stuff, but the wooden box is missing. In Julie's apartment, Sutton reveals Kyle's addiction and shows Julie the wooden box. Sutton admits his true feelings and says he took Kyle as a roommate to be close to her, but she doesn't feel the same way. Julie is shocked when Sutton stands up, claiming he's healing and getting stronger. Sutton tries to kiss her, but she pushes him and tells him to leave. Outside, Sutton sees Death and almost gets hit by a car. At home, Kyle hallucinates his teeth falling out and sees Death through a window. A cop arrives to take him to Platt's office. A detective shows him an unsent email on Platt's computer reading, "We cheated Death, and now Death is coming to claim us. No one cheats Death, Kyle. We must destroy it." Kyle feigns ignorance about what it means and repeats Platt's words about destroying it. In the garage, as Kyle is about to destroy the coffin with an axe, Sutton arrives. Kyle is surprised that he's walking, saying Platt was right, and the coffin has to be destroyed. Sutton tells Kyle to put the axe down, but Kyle swings it. Sutton punches Kyle's back and knocks him out. Before getting in the coffin, he's placed in Kyle's truck. In Julie's apartment, Julie pours a glass of milk while listening to the radio. The song slows down, and she turns it off. She hears a noise from the bathroom and sees shampoo bottles have fallen in the shower. While she's in the bathroom, an invisible Sutton drops sleeping pills in her milk. Julie returns to the kitchen and finishes the drink. Sutton locks her door from the inside, and the radio turns back on. She turns it off again as the lights flicker and the apartment loses power. The words she says appear on her laptop. Then things start to fly off the shelves. She runs to the door, but it's locked, and a knife flies across the room, barely missing her. She asks who's tormenting her, and Sutton's name appears on the laptop. She apologizes for hurting his feelings before passing out. Kyle wakes up and sees multiple candid pictures of Julie on Sutton's laptop. His phone is dead, so he uses his laptop to call Julie. Julie answers Kyle's video call and tells him that Sutton drugged her. Kyle says she won't be able to see Sutton and instructs her to escape, but Julie passes out again. Sutton looks down at Julie, and he wakes up in the coffin in Kyle's truck near Julie's apartment. Kyle takes the gun and runs to Julie's place, but Sutton has already taken Julie. All Kyle sees is Julie's messy apartment and his truck driving away outside the window. In the boxing gym, Sutton ties Julie to an exercise machine and covers her mouth. Meanwhile, Kyle finds his truck outside the gym building and sneaks into the basement, where he's stalked by Death. Back in the gym, Sutton tells Julie that they'll use the coffin together so she can see the world the way he does. She hits him on the nose when he leans in, and it bleeds. Sutton cuts his chest with a knife, showing he doesn't care about his body anymore. Kyle calls out to Julie, and Sutton asks if she really loves him. Julie nods, angering him, and he takes the coffin to another place to use it. In the showers, Kyle is astonished that Sutton is visible in ghost form. Sutton explains that he made the music in the coffin play longer, which is why he dismantled the Walkman for parts. Kyle wants to destroy the coffin because it's killing them. Sutton disappears, reappears all over the room, and pushes Kyle to the ground. He tells Kyle to listen to him and Julie on the other side of the wall. Kyle chases him to the storage, but Sutton locks him inside. Sutton removes the tape over Julie's mouth, telling her to scream for Kyle, but she won't oblige. Sutton makes a candle float into his hand, hurting Julie with the flames and causing her to cry out. Kyle hears her and uses a knife to open an air vent that he crawls through. Sutton turns invisible and begins taking advantage of Julie. Kyle reaches a room and climbs the stairs to the top of the building, but Death is blocking the doorway to the rooftop. He isn't scared of Death and passes through its body, and it disappears. He finds the coffin and removes Sutton's body before pouring paint thinner on it. Sutton's ghost feels the danger and wakes up his body to stop Kyle. Kyle pleads to burn the coffin together, but Sutton wrestles him. Kyle takes the gun and points it at Sutton's chest. Sutton thinks he'll shoot him, but he shoots the coffin instead, and it goes up in flames. Sutton runs to extinguish the fire, but Kyle stops him. He knocks Kyle down and carries him to the edge of the rooftop to throw him. Kyle holds on to the edge as Sutton steps on his fingers to make him let go. A bullet grazes Sutton's neck, and he sees Julie holding the gun. Julie shoots his shoulder, distracting him as Kyle climbs back up. The two men trade punches and Sutton falls to the pavement below. Sutton's ghost opens his eyes and stands next to his lifeless body. He laughs, thinking he got what he wanted anyway, but Death is behind him. Sutton screams as Death finally takes him. Kyle collects the gears from the burnt coffin and places them in a bag. On their way home, Kyle sees Marcus being arrested by cops and gives him a smile. He stops by the old woman's house and says he should have destroyed the coffin. He hands the woman the bag, but it falls to the floor, revealing she's a ghost. The woman's eyes turn white, and she walks back to a rocking chair with Death seated next to her. Kyle asks how long he'll be seeing Death. She tells him he'll see it for the rest of his life before she disappears. Kyle concludes that Death is always walking with the living, waiting for each person's time, and the only difference is now he can see it.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.